The industrial kitchen was quiet at 3 a.m., save for the hum of refrigerators and the distant rumble of trucks making their early morning deliveries. Harriet May Sullivan stood at her stainless steel workstation, hands deep in a bowl of crimson cake batter, the color so rich it reminded her of velvet curtains in an old theater. Red velvet cake, Bobby's recipe. She could still see his hands, those strong, gentle hands, guiding hers through the motions 40 years ago in their cramped apartment kitchen. "Baby, you gotta fold it gentle, like you're tucking in a child," he'd said, his breath warm against her ear. "Can't rush love, and you can't rush good cake." Hattie smiled at the memory, even as her chest tightened with something that wasn't quite nostalgia. Her left arm had been tingling for the past hour, but she pushed through. Preston's 42nd birthday party was tonight, and Jessica had been specific. "Mom, Preston's business partners are really important. We need to impress them." Impress them? Everything was about impressing somebody these days. Not about feeding souls. Not about bringing people together over a meal that reminded them of Sunday dinners at Grandma's house, when the world moved slower and love came served on chipped china plates. The overhead lights flickered. Hattie steadied herself against the counter, took a breath. "Just finish this one, then the other 4. Her phone buzzed, vibrating across the metal surface. Jessica's name lit up the screen with a photo from 5 years ago, back when her daughter still smiled at her like she mattered, not like she was some old workhorse that needed prodding. "Hey, baby girl," Hattie answered, cradling the phone between her shoulder and ear while she continued folding the batter. "Mom." Jessica's voice had that edge to it, the one that made Hattie feel about 2 inches tall. "Preston just texted me. His partners are bringing their wives, so we're going to need 5 more cakes, not just the one. Can you handle that?" Hattie glanced at the clock. 3:47 a.m. The party started at 6 p.m. "Jessica, honey, I'm already working on the one you asked for. 5 more. That's... Mom, please." The word dripped with exasperation. "This is important. These are millionaires, okay? Preston's trying to close a huge deal, and if tonight goes well, we're talking about enough money to finally expand the restaurant into a real brand. Isn't that what you always wanted?" What I always wanted, what Hattie wanted, was for her daughter to ask how she was doing, to remember that just last week Dr. Patel had warned her about her blood pressure, to maybe, just once, offer to help instead of demand more. But Hattie said, "All right, baby, I'll get it done." "You're the best, Mom." The warmth in Jessica's voice was like sunlight breaking through clouds. Brief, beautiful, gone too quick. "I gotta run. Preston's freaking out about the ice sculpture. Love you." The line went dead before Hattie could say it back. She set down the phone and looked at her hands. 65 years old, and they were still strong, still capable. Knuckles a little swollen from arthritis, skin creased like well-worn leather, but steady. These hands had scrubbed floors, kneaded 10,000 batches of dough, signed loan papers with fingers that trembled from fear and hope in equal measure. These hands had built an empire from nothing but Bobby's recipe book and her own stubborn refusal to quit. And these hands would make 5 more damn cakes if that's what Jessica needed. By 4:15 a.m., Hattie had 3 cakes in the ovens. The pain in her chest had spread to her jaw, a dull ache that felt like someone pressing their thumb into the hollow of her throat. She gripped the edge of the counter, breathing shallow. "Just stress. You've been stressed before." But this felt different. This felt like a hand squeezing her heart. She pulled out her phone with shaking fingers and dialed Jessica. It rang and rang. "Hey, you've reached Jessica. I'm probably fabulousing somewhere. Leave a message." Beep. "Baby girl, it's Mom. I'm not feeling too good. My chest is..." She paused, pride warring with pain. "Could you maybe come by the restaurant? I think I might need to..." Another line was cutting in. Jessica calling back. "Thank God." Hattie answered. "Jessica, honey, Mom," music pounded in the background, something with too much bass and not enough soul. "Are you seriously calling me at 4 in the morning? The party doesn't even start for like 14 hours. Can't you just handle it?" "No, baby, listen, I'm not feeling well. My chest hurts and I think I might need..." "Oh my God, Mom, you're always so dramatic." Jessica's laugh was sharp, cutting. "Last month you thought you were dying because you had heartburn. Remember? You made me leave brunch with my girls and it was just gas." In the background, a man's voice. Preston, smooth as expensive whiskey. "Babe, come on, we got bottles to open." Look, Mom, just take some aspirin and lie down, okay? You're probably just tired because you insist on doing everything yourself instead of delegating like a normal person. I gotta go. We're pre-gaming before the party and you're totally killing my vibe. Jessica. Love you. Bye. Click. Hattie stood in the fluorescent glare of her kitchen, phone still pressed to her ear, listening to nothing. The ovens hummed, the refrigerators buzzed, and somewhere deep in her chest, something was breaking that had nothing to do with her heart muscle and everything to do with her heart. She set the phone down carefully, precisely, the way you'd set down something fragile that you knew you'd never pick up again quite the same way. Okay then, she turned back to the mixer, to the butter and sugar that needed creaming for cakes number 4 and 5. Her vision blurred at the edges, but she blinked it clear. The Sullivan women didn't quit. Bobby had loved that about her grit, her determination to push through anything. Baby, you're the strongest person I know, he'd said once. Holding her hands after a 14-hour shift left her so tired she could barely stand. But strong don't mean you gotta do it alone. But she was alone now. Bobby had been gone 18 years. And Jessica, the pain struck like lightning. Sudden, total, consuming. Hattie's knees buckled. She reached for the counter, but her hand found only air. The floor rushed up to meet her, cold steel against her cheek. The last thing she saw before the darkness took her was the oven timer. 5:47 a.m., and the last thing she smelled was Bobby's red velvet cake, burning. The fluorescent lights were too bright, too white, like heaven's waiting room if heaven was run by a particularly efficient bureaucracy. Hattie Mae Sullivan swam up from unconsciousness in pieces. First sound, machines beeping, then sensation, something tugging at her hand, an IV, then smell, antiseptic and old coffee, and finally sight. A woman's face floated above her, dark-skinned and lined with the kind of wrinkles that came from smiling more than frowning. Warm brown eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. There you are, the woman said softly. Her name tag read Evelyn Rose, RN. Welcome back, Mrs. Sullivan. You gave us quite a scare. Hattie tried to speak, but her mouth was dry as dust. Evelyn held a cup of water with a straw to her lips. Small sips. That's it. Evelyn's voice had that particular cadence. Southern, like home, like Sunday mornings and front porch conversations. You're at St. Mary's Hospital. You had a stroke, honey. Your chef, Daniel, found you and called 911. Probably saved your life. Danny. Of course it was Danny. That boy had more sense in his pinky finger than... My daughter, Hattie rasped. Jessica, did she... Something flickered across Evelyn's face. I've been trying to reach her, sweetheart. Called 7 times since you came in at 6 a.m. It's now... She glanced at the wall clock. 2:17 p.m. 8 hours. Jessica hadn't answered in 8 hours. She's probably busy with... Hattie started, and even she could hear how pathetic it sounded. Making excuses for her own child while she lay in a hospital bed, lucky to be alive. Evelyn's hand found hers, warm and solid. Mrs. Sullivan, I'm a mother too. And I'm going to tell you something straight. Busy ain't an excuse when your mama's in the ICU. The tears came then, hot and shameful. Hattie tried to turn her face away, but Evelyn wouldn't let her hide. Nah, none of that. You cry if you need to cry. The Lord gave us tears for a reason. Evelyn pulled up a chair, settled in like she had all the time in the world. You know what I think? I think you've been holding everybody else up for so long, you forgot somebody's supposed to be holding you too. Before Hattie could respond, her phone, which someone had placed on the bedside table, began to ring. Jessica's photo filled the screen. Evelyn handed it to her with a look that said, "We'll see about this." Hello? Hattie's voice was steadier than she felt. Oh my God, Mom, finally! I've been calling for like 20 minutes. Jessica's voice was breathless, annoyed. The hospital won't stop blowing up my phone. What's going on? Are you being dramatic again? Evelyn's eyebrows shot up so high they nearly hit her hairline. Hattie closed her eyes. Jessica, I had a stroke. I'm in the ICU. Silence. Then, wait, for real? Yes, baby, for real. Oh, a pause. Music thudded in the background. That same relentless bass from this morning. Okay, well, are you like dying or just sick? Evelyn made a sound like a kettle about to boil over. The doctors aren't sure yet, Hattie said carefully. They're running tests. Okay, but like, is it an emergency? because Preston's party starts in 4 hours and we've got 200 people coming and the caterer is already here setting up and—" "The party?" Hattie's voice cracked. "Jessica, your mother is in the hospital." "I know, Mom, but you're always having some health thing. Remember when you thought you had a heart attack and it was just anxiety? Or when you were convinced you had cancer and it was a UTI? Jessica's sigh was long-suffering. "I'm not trying to be mean, but you've cried wolf-like 1,000,000 times. Evelyn snatched the phone right out of Hattie's hand. "Hi there, this is Evelyn Rose, your mother's nurse. And let me tell you something, young lady." "Excuse me, who the hell are you?" Jessica's voice went ice cold. "Put my mother back on the phone. Your mother had a major stroke. She could have died. She still might if she has another one." Evelyn's voice was calm but firm, like she was explaining physics to a particularly slow student. "Now, I don't know what kind of party you got going on, but unless you're celebrating the second coming of Jesus Christ himself, it can wait while you come check on the woman who gave you life." "Oh, so now I'm being lectured by some random nurse? That's rich." Jessica laughed, but it held no humor. "Tell my mother I'll send Preston by later, and tell her next time she wants attention, maybe don't pick the day of my husband's birthday party. It's really inconsiderate." The line went dead. Evelyn set the phone down with the careful control of someone who wanted to throw it across the room, but had better manners. "Well," she said after a long moment. That was something. Hattie couldn't look at her. Shame burned hot in her throat. "She's just stressed. The party is important for Preston's business, and I shouldn't have—" "Stop!" Evelyn's voice was sharp enough to cut. "Mrs. Sullivan, I've been a nurse for 32 years. I've seen a lot of things. And what I just heard on that phone, that wasn't stress. That was cruelty." The word landed like a slap. "She's my daughter," Hattie whispered. "I know, honey, and that's what makes it hurt worse." Evelyn pulled her chair closer. "Can I tell you something? My daughter, she's about your Jessica's age. She called me once from a club in Miami, drunk off her ass, laughing, having the time of her life. You know what she was calling for? To tell me she loved me. Just that. 'Mama, I'm having so much fun, but I was thinking about you and I wanted to say I love you.' That's what daughters do, Mrs. Sullivan, when they remember who raised them." Hattie turned her face to the wall, tears sliding silent into her hair. Evelyn let her cry, and when the tears finally slowed, she said quietly, "I'm going to be right outside if you need anything. But Mrs. Sullivan, I want you to think about something. Sometimes the people we love the most are the ones who take the most for granted. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes, the most loving thing we can do is stop letting them." She left, closing the door with a soft click. Hattie lay in the silence, machines beeping their steady rhythm, keeping time to a heartbeat that felt increasingly like it belonged to a stranger. A fool. A woman who'd spent so long being the strong one, the provider, the endless well of love and support, that she'd forgotten what it felt like to be valued, to be cherished, to be seen as something more than a walking ATM machine with a good cake recipe. Her phone sat on the table, screen dark. She stared at it for a long time. Then, slowly, carefully, she reached for the iPad Evelyn had left on the bedside table, probably for her to browse while she recovered. Hattie's hands trembled as she opened Instagram. She didn't use it much, but Jessica had insisted she get an account. "Mom, you need to promote the restaurant. It's all about social media now." She navigated to Jessica's profile, fingers clumsy on the screen. The latest post was from 20 minutes ago, a photo of Jessica and Preston, both dressed to the nines, champagne glasses raised. The caption read, "Pre-gaming for the party of the year. #BlessedLife. #PowerCouple. #BirthdayVibes. 200 likes already. 50 comments. People she'd never met gushing about how gorgeous they looked, how perfect their life was. Hattie scrolled down. More photos. The ice sculpture. The catering spread. The backyard transformed into something from a magazine. And then she saw it. A red dot in the corner. Live. Her thumb hovered over it. Some instinct, maybe the same one that had kept her alive through poverty and widowhood and building a business from nothing, whispered, "Don't. You don't want to see this." But she pressed it anyway. The live stream loaded in crystal clear quality. Of course it did. They had the best internet money could buy, installed in the house that Hattie's money had purchased, to stream the party that Hattie's hands had prepared. The camera was propped somewhere high, giving a wide view of the Sullivan backyard. Hattie recognized it immediately. The stone patio Bobby had laid himself 20 years ago, now covered with a massive white tent. String lights glittered like stars. A jazz band played in the corner, the kind of smooth, soulless music white people thought black people liked. 200 people, maybe more, milled about in cocktail dresses and expensive suits. She recognized some of them: Jessica's sorority sisters, Preston's old fraternity brothers, a few people from the country club Jessica had joined last year over Hattie's quiet objections. "Mom, networking is everything in business." The camera shifted. Preston stood at the center of a circle of men in tailored suits, holding court. And in his hand, Hattie's breath caught. In his hand was a bottle of Dom Perignon, vintage 1996. The label was distinctive, unmistakable. It was the bottle, the one Bobby had bought the year they opened their first restaurant, saying, "We'll open this on our 50th anniversary, baby. We'll drink it and remember every step that got us here." Bobby had died in their 32nd year. She'd kept the bottle in the wine cellar, wrapped in tissue paper, tucked in the back where no one would find it. It wasn't for drinking. It was a promise. A memorial. A piece of the future she and Bobby were supposed to have. And Preston was pouring it like it was Kool-Aid at a picnic. "Absolute legend, this vintage." Preston's voice boomed through the phone's tiny speaker. 1996, baby. The year I graduated high school. It's like the universe knew this night was going to be epic. Laughter rippled through the crowd. "Where'd you even find this, P?" one of the men asked. Preston winked. Actually winked, the smug bastard. "Let's just say my mother-in-law has excellent taste. Or rather, had excellent taste. Woman's been hoarding this in the cellar like a dragon with gold. Figured tonight was special enough to liberate it." More laughter, glasses raised. Hattie's hand tightened on the iPad, knuckles going white. "Speaking of the dragon," someone called out, "where is Mother Sullivan tonight?" The group went quiet for a beat. Then Preston's smile widened, sharp as a knife. The matriarch couldn't make it. Had a little situation this morning." He made air quotes around situation. "You know how it is with old folks. Always something. Probably gas, but she's convinced it's a heart attack." Jessica appeared on screen, sliding up next to Preston in a dress that cost more than Hattie's first car. She was laughing, that high, performative laugh she'd developed sometime in the last 5 years. Nothing like the belly laughs Hattie remembered from her childhood. "Babe, don't be mean." Jessica play-swatted his arm, but she was smiling. "My mom's just dramatic. Very, very dramatic. Last month she made me leave a spa day because she thought she had appendicitis. It was constipation." The crowd roared. Someone shouted, "Old people, man!" Preston pulled Jessica close, kissing her temple. "At least she's consistent. Consistent and conveniently absent. Finally, we can have a party without hearing about traditional values and the importance of family dinners." He raised his glass, Bobby's champagne catching the light. "Here's to the future, baby. To Thornton's Urban Kitchen, coming soon to replace all that tired soul food shit with something actually profitable." Jessica clinked her glass against his. "To the future." They drank deep, and Hattie in her hospital bed, in her thin gown, hooked up to machines monitoring a heart that had nearly given out while making a cake for this man's birthday. Hattie felt something shift inside her. It wasn't grief. She'd felt grief when Bobby died, a howling emptiness that nothing could fill. It wasn't anger. She had been angry before, at racist landlords who wouldn't rent to her, at banks that wouldn't give her loans, at customers who assumed a black woman couldn't run a business. This was something colder, clearer, precise as a surgeon's blade. This was understanding. Her daughter, her only child, the girl she'd worked 3 jobs to put through private school, whose college tuition she'd paid without loans, whose wedding had cost more than Hattie's first restaurant. Her daughter didn't love her. Maybe had never loved her. At least not the way Hattie had loved Jessica. Fierce, unconditional, the kind of love that would walk through fire and ask for more. Number Jessica loved what Hattie provided. The money, the business, the safety net of a mother who would always, always catch her when she fell. Preston loved it too. Loved the empire Hattie had built, brick by brick, from nothing but recipes and sweat and stubborn hope. They didn't love her. They loved what she'd die and leave behind. The live stream continued. Preston was talking about his plans for modernizing the restaurants, getting rid of the dated menu, the old-fashioned decor, the inefficient staff who'd been with Hattie for decades. "First thing I'm doing when we take over? Firing that stick-in-the-mud chef, Danny whatever his name is. Guy acts like he owns the place. Babe, Danny's been with Mom for like 10 years, Jessica said, but there was no real protest in her voice. Exactly. 10 years of resisting every new idea, every innovation. Dude makes the same crusty old recipes like it's 1950. We need fresh blood. Someone who understands fusion, molecular gastronomy, Instagram-worthy presentations. A woman's voice. When do you think you'll be able to make these changes? Preston and Jessica exchanged a look. Something passed between them. Quick, furtive, ugly. Well, Preston said slowly, drawing it out. Mother Sullivan is 65. She's already had one health scare today. Several health scares, Jessica interjected. Right, several. And let's be real. She's been running herself into the ground for 40 years. The woman doesn't know how to retire. So, he shrugged, the gesture heavy with implication. Nature takes its course. Could be 5 years. Could be 5 months. Our friend Victoria at First National has already helped us set up the transition paperwork. When the time comes, we'll be ready to hit the ground running. Here's hoping it's sooner rather than later, someone joked. They all laughed. Every single one of them laughed. Hattie set down the iPad with hands that didn't shake. Couldn't shake. Because something in her had gone very, very still. The way prey goes still when the predator passes, conserving every ounce of energy for survival. The door opened. Evelyn came in, took one look at Hattie's face, and immediately moved to the bedside. Mrs. Sullivan, what happened? Are you in pain? Hattie looked up at her. Evelyn, honey, I need you to do something for me. Of course, what do you need? I need you to not tell anyone, and I mean anyone, that my condition has stabilized. If my daughter or her husband call, you tell them I'm still critical. Unstable. Touch and go. Evelyn's eyes widened. Mrs. Sullivan, I can't lie to family members about... I'm not asking you to lie. I'm asking you to be conservative with the truth. Hattie's voice was calm, steady. 40 years of running a business had taught her how to negotiate. Tell them the next 72 hours are crucial, that I'm not taking visitors. Doctor's orders. Can you do that? Evelyn searched her face. Whatever she saw there made her nod slowly. And one more thing, Hattie said. I need you to get me a phone. A new one. A burner. And I need you to call someone for me. Tell them Hattie Mae Sullivan needs to see them. Tonight. In secret. Who? Reverend Isaiah Walker. He'll come. Evelyn hesitated for just a moment, then squared her shoulders. All right, Mrs. Sullivan, I'll make the call. But can I ask why? Hattie smiled, and it was a terrible thing, beautiful and cold as a winter sunrise. Because, Evelyn, I just died in that bed. And now I need to figure out who I'm going to be when I come back. Reverend Isaiah Walker arrived at 5:17 a.m., slipping through the hospital's back entrance like a shadow. He was tall, lean, with silver hair and eyes that had seen too much of both heaven and hell to be surprised by either anymore. In his hands he carried a worn leather briefcase, the kind lawyers used to carry before everything went digital. Evelyn let him in, locked the door behind him, and positioned herself outside like a sentinel. Isaiah looked at Hattie lying in the hospital bed, machines still beeping their steady rhythm, and his face crumpled just slightly, a crack in the armor he'd worn since he was 17, and watching his father get beaten by cops in Birmingham. Sister Hattie, he said softly, what did they do to you? Not they, Isaiah, my own blood. Hattie's voice was steady, but her eyes were red-rimmed. Sit down. We don't have much time, and I need you to listen close. Isaiah pulled up a chair, set the briefcase on his lap. His hands rested on it like he was guarding something precious. I saw the live stream, Hattie said. Jessica and Preston drinking Bobby's champagne, making jokes about waiting for me to die so they can gut my restaurants and turn them into some bougie bullshit. She paused, let that sink in. Tell me something, Isaiah. When Bobby died, he left papers with you. Told me you'd keep them safe until I needed them. Do you still have them? Every single one. Isaiah's voice was grave. In my safe, exactly where he put them 18 years ago. He made me swear, on my ordination, on my life, that I wouldn't open that briefcase until you asked. Said someday you might need to know the truth about him, about what he set up to protect you. I need to know now. Isaiah opened the briefcase with careful fingers. Inside, wrapped in plastic sleeves, were documents that looked official enough to make a lawyer weep. He pulled out the first one, laid it on the bed. Hattie, Bobby wasn't just a chef. Before he met you, before he came to Georgia, he was a forensic accountant working for the FBI out of Louisiana. Hattie's eyebrows shot up. What? Dead serious. Your husband helped crack one of the biggest embezzlement cases in Louisiana history back in 1985. Some state senator was skimming millions from education funds, hiding it in shell companies, offshore accounts, the whole 9 yards. Bobby was the one who followed the money, built the case that sent that man to prison for 20 years. Bobby never told me, because he was in witness protection, Hattie. Loose witness protection, but still. The senator had connections, dangerous ones. Bobby had to disappear, start over. That's why he became a chef. It was the one thing he loved that had nothing to do with numbers and corruption. But he never forgot what he learned. Isaiah pulled out another document, this one thick with legal jargon and official seals. When you and Bobby started making real money with the restaurants, he didn't put anything in your names. Not the buildings, not the businesses, not even the house. Everything, and I mean everything, is held in something called an irrevocable trust. You know what that means? Explain it to me like I'm 5. It means Jessica can't touch it. Preston definitely can't touch it. Hell, even you can't liquidate it without unanimous consent from all 3 trustees. And those trustees are you, me, and Dorothy Jean. The words hung in the air like a benediction. Bobby set this up? Hattie whispered. In 2003, said to me, Isaiah, I love my daughter, but I've seen what money does to people. I've seen good folks turn evil over a few $1,000s. Hattie and I, we're building something real, something that matters. And I need to make sure that when I'm gone, nobody can take it from her. Not the government, not some slick lawyer, not even Jessica if she goes sideways. Lord have mercy, Hattie breathed. Isaiah wasn't done. He pulled out a sealed envelope, Bobby's handwriting scrawled across it. For Hattie, when she needs it most. He told me you'd know when to read this, said I'd see it in your eyes. Isaiah studied her face. I see it now. Hattie took the envelope with trembling hands, broke the seal, and unfolded the letter inside. Bobby's handwriting, strong, assured, familiar as her own heartbeat. My dearest Hattie, if you're reading this, something's gone wrong. Maybe with Jessica, maybe with someone else. But I know you, baby. You don't ask for help unless you're drowning. Here's what I need you to understand. Everything we built, it's yours. Not Jessica's, not some stranger's. Yours. I made sure of it. But here's the thing, Hattie Mae. Money doesn't make you rich. Love does. Family does. And if the people around you only see dollar signs when they look at you, then they're not really seeing you at all. You're the strongest woman I ever met. Strong enough to walk away from money if that's what it takes to keep your soul. Strong enough to let people face the consequences of their choices, even when those people are family. Kindness isn't weakness, but boundaries aren't cruelty either. Whatever you decide to do, I'm proud of you. I've always been proud of you. And I'm watching over you still, baby. Every single day. All my love, across time and heaven. Bobby Hattie folded the letter carefully, pressed it to her chest. When she looked up at Isaiah, her eyes were dry but blazing. How long do we have to freeze everything? Isaiah smiled, slow and dangerous. With the right paperwork, we can have them locked out of every account by noon today. The house, the cars, the credit cards. All of it tied to the trust, which means all of it requires trustee approval. And I'm guessing you're not feeling very approving right now. Call Dorothy. Tell her to meet us here. And Isaiah? Hattie's voice was steel wrapped in velvet. Tell her to bring every financial record she has on Preston Thornton. Bank statements, credit reports, everything. If that man so much as sneezed on a loan application, I want to know about it. You thinking what I'm thinking? I'm thinking my son-in-law has been real comfortable spending money he didn't earn. And in my experience, men like that always have secrets. Isaiah stood, clasping her hand. Hattie Mae Sullivan, you are your husband's wife. Damn right I am. Dorothy Jean arrived at 6:30 a.m. with a banker's box full of files and a look on her face that could strip paint. She was shorter than Hattie, rounder, with reading glasses on a chain, and the no-nonsense demeanor of someone who'd spent 40 years making numbers add up. That child, she said without preamble, setting the box down with a thud. That child of yours, Hattie. I have been biting my tongue for 5 years, watching her treat you like an ATM with a pulse. But last night? She shook her head. Last night I saw the live stream, and I am done. You hear me? Done. I hear you, sister. Now show me what you found. Dorothy pulled out a file marked Thornton Preston, Personal Finances, and opened it like a prosecutor revealing evidence. Your son-in-law is drowning in debt. I'm talking underwater, can't see the surface, swimming with concrete shoes levels of debt. She jabbed a finger at a highlighted section. His marketing company went bankrupt 3 years ago, owing $5 million. $5 million. And it wasn't normal business failure. The creditors are still trying to figure out where the money went. Just vanished into thin air. Isaiah leaned in. Money laundering? That's my guess. But here's where it gets interesting. Dorothy pulled out another document. 6 months ago, Preston applied for a $3.2 million loan from First National Bank. Claimed he had partial ownership of Hattie's Southern Table restaurants number 4 and 5. Provided documentation, deeds, operating agreements, the whole package. Hattie's voice went deadly quiet. I never signed anything giving him ownership. I know you didn't, because I keep every document you sign, filed and cross-referenced. So this morning I called Victoria Lansing at First National. We go way back. Her mama and I used to work together. And Victoria, bless her, she broke about 17 banking regulations to tell me the truth. Dorothy pulled out photocopies of documents, and Hattie's breath caught. There was her signature, clear as day, on deed transfers and partnership agreements. These are fake, Hattie said. Forged, Dorothy corrected. Preston hacked your email, pulled old documents with your real signature, and photoshopped them onto new papers. Did a decent job, too. Good enough to fool the first-level approval. But Victoria's sharp. She flagged them for additional review before releasing the full amount. They've only dispersed $800,000 so far. $800,000 of my money, Hattie said slowly, in Preston's pocket, based on forged documents. Isaiah was already pulling out his phone. That's wire fraud, forgery, and attempted grand larceny. Federal crimes. Everyone. And if we can prove he was planning to use the money for illegal purposes... Victoria mentioned something else, Dorothy said quietly. Preston has an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. She's not supposed to know about it, but her ex-husband works in international banking, and he saw Preston's name come across his desk last year. The account received several large deposits, amounts that don't match any legitimate income source. Money laundering, Isaiah confirmed, which means FBI jurisdiction. Hattie looked at both of them. Here's what we're going to do. Dorothy, I need you to freeze every account Jessica and Preston have access to. Business accounts, personal accounts, credit cards, everything. Can you do that by noon? I can do it by 9 a.m. Hell, I can do it in the next hour if you want. Do it now. And leave just enough in their personal checking to make sure the freeze looks like a computer error at first. I want them to feel the trap closing slowly. Sadistic, Dorothy said approvingly. I like it. Isaiah, I need you to file legal complaints, criminal and civil. I want Preston investigated for fraud, forgery, and whatever else you can make stick. And I need you to do it quietly. No press, no public filings until we're ready. What about Jessica? Isaiah asked carefully. Hattie was silent for a long moment. Outside the window, dawn was breaking over the city, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Jessica gets a choice, she finally said. One choice. Stand with her husband or stand with the truth. But she only gets to choose once, and she needs to make it count. Dorothy nodded. And what about you? Where are you going to be while all this goes down? Hattie smiled, that same terrible, beautiful smile from last night. I'm going to disappear. Let them think I'm dying, or already dead. Let them show their true colors when they think nobody's watching. You're going to need help, Evelyn's voice came from the doorway. She'd been listening, apparently. I can arrange a discharge through the back entrance. Make it look like you transferred to another facility for specialized care. Buy you a few days before anyone realizes you're gone. You'd do that? Hattie asked. Mrs. Sullivan, I got 3 daughters. And if any one of them treated me the way yours treated you yesterday, I'd burn their world down and roast marshmallows on the ashes. Evelyn crossed her arms. So yeah, I'll help. Gladly. Isaiah stood, clasping Hattie's hand. Bobby would be proud of you. Bobby would tell me I waited too long, Hattie said. But he'd also tell me it's never too late to stand up for yourself. Amen to that, Dorothy said. Now let's go ruin some lives. Jessica Sullivan Thornton woke up at 10:47 a.m. with a champagne headache and a vague sense that she'd forgotten something important. She rolled over, reached for her phone, and saw 17 missed calls from the hospital. Oh, Mom. She silenced the notifications without listening to the voicemails and padded downstairs in her silk robe. Preston was already up, looking annoyingly fresh despite drinking enough champagne last night to float a yacht. He was on his laptop at the kitchen island, frowning. "Morning, babe," Jessica said, kissing his cheek. "You look stressed." "Bank's being weird. I'm trying to move money around for the contractor. We're supposed to break ground on the restaurant renovation next week, but the transfers keep getting rejected. Probably just a system glitch." Coffee?" Jessica poured herself a cup from the French press, the fancy one, $30 a pound, from that boutique roaster in Brooklyn. "So I was thinking Saks is having a private sale today. Want to come with? We could get you some new suits for the investor meetings." "Can't, babe. Got a call with Victoria at the bank in an hour. Need to figure out what's going on with these accounts." He glanced at her. "You should go, though. Treat yourself. God knows you earned it after pulling off last night's party." Jessica preened. The party had been perfect. Everyone said so. The ice sculpture alone had been Instagram gold. 300 likes in the first hour. "You're the best," she said, kissing him again. "I'll take Madison and Chloe. Make a day of it." An hour later, Jessica stood in Saks Fifth Avenue with her two best friends from the country club, champagne flutes in hand. The store offered complimentary champagne for VIP shoppers, surveying racks of designer dresses. "This one," Madison said, holding up a Valentino cocktail dress. "Very you, very I have my life together." "Try it on," Chloe urged. "If it looks good, get it in 3 colors." Jessica did. The dress fit like a dream, hugging curves she'd paid good money to maintain through Pilates and a personal trainer. She studied herself in the mirror, turned to show her friends. "Perfection," Madison declared. "Get it." At the register, Jessica handed over her black Amex, the one tied to the business account, the one with basically unlimited credit. The sales associate, an elegant woman named Simone, smiled and ran the card. The machine beeped. Simone frowned slightly, tried again. Another beep. "I'm so sorry, Mrs. Thornton, but this card is being declined. Do you have another?" Jessica felt heat rush to her face. Madison and Chloe went very still, the way people do when they smell blood in the water. "That's impossible," Jessica said, forcing a laugh. "Try it again." Simone did. Same result. "It says the account has been frozen. You might want to call your bank." "It's fine, just use this one." Jessica pulled out her personal Visa, the platinum one. Surely that would work. Declined. She tried her MasterCard. Declined. Her Discover card, the one she barely used. Declined. Simone's professional smile was starting to crack. "Perhaps you should call—" "I'll call them right now." Jessica grabbed her purse, fumbled for her phone. "Just hold those items. I'll be right back." She practically ran to the bathroom, Madison and Chloe's whispers following her like knives. In the marble-lined restroom, Jessica called the bank's customer service line with shaking fingers. "First National Bank, this is Trevor. How can I help you?" "This is Jessica Thornton. All my cards are being declined and I need to know why immediately." Clicking of keys. "One moment, Mrs. Thornton. I see here that accounts ending in 7823, 4491, and 2156 have been frozen as of 9:15 this morning." "Frozen? By who?" "By the primary account holder, Mrs. Harriet Sullivan. The accounts are trust-controlled, and Mrs. Sullivan has requested a full freeze pending trustee review." The bathroom tilted. Jessica gripped the marble counter. "That's not possible. My mother is in the hospital. She's dying." "I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am, but the freeze order came through this morning with proper authorization. If you have questions, you'll need to contact the trust administrator. That would be—" More clicking. "Reverend Isaiah Walker. I have a number here." Jessica hung up, stared at herself in the mirror. Her reflection looked pale, panicked, nothing like the confident woman who'd walked in 20 minutes ago. Her phone buzzed. A text from Preston. "WTF is going on? FB, I just emailed me. Call me now." Jessica's hands started shaking so badly she almost dropped the phone. Preston was pacing the living room like a caged animal when Jessica got home, her friends forgotten, the Valentino dress abandoned at Saks. His face was flushed, his expensive hair gel failing to keep his perfectly styled hair in place. "FBI, he shouted the moment she walked in. "The fucking FBI just sent me an email asking me to come in for questioning about financial irregularities related to your mother's businesses." "Preston, calm down." "Calm down? Calm down?" He thrust his laptop at her. On the screen was an official email from Special Agent Sarah Rodriguez, Federal Bureau of Investigation, requesting Preston's presence at their downtown office on Wednesday at 2 p.m. "Please bring legal representation," it concluded ominously. Jessica's knees went weak. She sank onto the couch. "What did you do?" she whispered. "What did I? Are you seriously asking me that?" "Your mother is setting me up. This is revenge because I made a joke at my own birthday party." "Preston, the FBI doesn't investigate jokes." Jessica's voice was steadier than she felt. "What did you do?" Preston's face cycled through several emotions: anger, fear, calculation, before settling on defensive. "I took out a loan, a business loan, to expand the restaurants, make them profitable, bring them into the 21st century instead of keeping them stuck in your mother's 1980s time warp." "How much?" $3.2 million. Jessica's vision grayed at the edges. $3 million? Preston, we don't have $3 million in equity. I used the restaurants as collateral. The restaurants we don't own. Silence. Terrible, crushing silence. "Preston," Jessica stood up slowly. "Tell me you didn't forge my mother's signature." "I didn't have a choice. She would never have approved the loan, and I knew I could turn those restaurants into something incredible if she'd just get out of the way." Preston was shouting now, all pretense gone. "Your mother is a stubborn old woman who refuses to evolve. She's sitting on a gold mine and treating it like a charity kitchen." "Oh my God." Jessica backed away from him. "Oh my God, you actually did it. You forged documents. You committed fraud." "It's not fraud if I was planning to pay it back." "That's literally what fraud is." Preston's phone rang. He looked at the screen, and whatever he saw there drained the color from his face. "Who is it?" Jessica demanded. "Victoria, from the bank." He answered on speaker. "Victoria, thank God. Listen, there's been some kind of mix-up. Mr. Thornton," Victoria's voice was professional, cold. "I'm calling to inform you that First National has frozen all disbursements related to loan number 847-NQ-2024 pending a federal investigation. Additionally, we've been subpoenaed to provide all documentation related to this loan, including the collateral agreements bearing Mrs. Sullivan's signature." "Victoria, come on. You know me." "We're friends. Mr. Thornton, I've been advised by our legal team not to have any further communication with you outside of official channels. A representative from the FBI will be contacting you shortly. Have a good day." Click. Preston stared at the phone like it had bitten him. Jessica's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Jessica, this is Samantha White. We need to talk. It's important. It's about Preston and our situation." Jessica looked up at Preston. "Who the hell is Samantha White?" The guilt that flashed across his face told her everything she needed to know. "Preston," she said slowly, her voice dropping to a whisper, "who is Samantha White?" "She's nobody. An ex. From before we got married." Jessica's phone buzzed again. This time a photo. A woman, blonde and pregnant, standing in what looked like a doctor's office. The date stamp read 2 weeks ago. The caption, 4 months along. "He promised he'd leave you." Jessica looked at the photo, looked at Preston, looked at the life she'd built, or thought she'd built, crumbling around her like a sandcastle in the tide. "Get out," she said quietly. "Jessica, baby, let me explain." "Get out!" The scream tore from her throat, primal and raw. "Get out of this house, out of my life, out of my sight!" "This is my house, too." "Actually," came a voice from the doorway. "It's not." They both spun. Dorothy Jean stood there with Isaiah Walker, both of them looking like the angels of death in business casual. "This house," Dorothy continued, stepping inside like she owned the place, which legally she kind of did, "is property of the Roberts Legacy Foundation. Preston Thornton has no legal claim to it whatsoever. In fact," she pulled out a document. "We have a court order demanding he vacate the premises within 2 hours and remove only personal effects. Everything else stays." Preston's face went from red to purple. "You can't do this." Isaiah held up another document. "We can and we did. You've got until 6 p.m. to pack a bag and leave, or we call the police and have you removed for trespassing." "Jessica!" Preston grabbed her arm. "Jessica, tell them—" She yanked free. Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again. But the baby? Your baby? Jessica's laugh was broken glass. The one Samantha's carrying? Yeah, congratulations, Daddy. I'm sure you'll be very happy together in whatever budget motel you end up in. Preston looked between the three of them, Jessica, Dorothy, Isaiah, and seemed to finally understand that he'd lost, that the empire he'd been counting on, the wealth he'd married into, the future he'd planned, was smoke. This isn't over, he said, but it sounded hollow. Oh, honey, Dorothy said sweetly. It's been over. You just didn't know it yet. Preston grabbed his keys and his laptop and stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the windows. In the silence that followed, Jessica sank onto the couch, her whole body shaking. Dorothy sat beside her, not touching, just present. Where's my mother? Jessica finally asked. Safe, Dorothy said. Somewhere you can't hurt her anymore. I didn't mean I never wanted. Jessica's voice broke. Is she really dying? No, she's healing, which is more than I can say for you right now. Jessica looked at her aunt. Technically not an aunt, just her mother's best friend, but family nonetheless. What do I do? Dorothy pulled an envelope from her purse. Your mother left this for you. She said you have a choice to make. And for once in your life, Jessica, you need to make the right one. 3 weeks later, Jessica sat in a corner booth at Mel's Diner, not one of her mother's restaurants, somewhere neutral, cheap, where nobody knew her name. The coffee was watery and the vinyl seats were cracked, but she barely noticed. She was too busy staring at the white plastic stick in her trembling hands. Pregnant. 6 weeks. She'd suspected for a while. The nausea, the exhaustion, the way her body felt like it belonged to someone else. But seeing those 2 pink lines made it real in a way that terror couldn't quite capture. Preston's baby. The man currently under FBI investigation, living in a motel on Route 9, desperately calling lawyers who wouldn't take his calls unless he had a retainer he couldn't afford. Or maybe not Preston's baby at all. Maybe just hers. Maybe that was enough. Her phone buzzed. Dorothy, meet me at Rosie's Cafe on 5th. Come alone. Jessica's hands shook as she typed back. I can't face Mom yet. Dorothy's response was immediate. Good thing she's not asking to see you. I am. 20 minutes. Rosie's Cafe was the kind of place that served breakfast all day and didn't judge you for crying into your eggs. Dorothy was already there, sitting at a booth in the back, 2 cups of coffee waiting. Jessica slid in across from her, feeling like a child called to the principal's office. You look like hell, Dorothy said matter-of-factly. Thanks. That's exactly what I needed to hear. Jessica wrapped her hands around the coffee mug, seeking warmth. How far along are you? Jessica's head snapped up. How did you... Honey, I've known you since you were in diapers. I know when something's different. Dorothy's voice softened, just slightly. 6 weeks? 7? 6. Jessica's voice was barely a whisper. I just found out this morning. And Preston? Hasn't called in 4 days. Last I heard, he's living at the Red Roof Inn and the FBI seized his laptop. Jessica laughed, but it came out more like a sob. Guess he's got bigger problems than impending fatherhood. Dorothy studied her for a long moment. What are you going to do? I don't know. I don't know anything anymore. Jessica's composure cracked. Aunt Dorothy, I fucked up. I fucked up so bad. I let Preston poison me against my own mother. I chose designer bags over the woman who worked 3 jobs to raise me. I made jokes about her dying while she was literally dying in a hospital bed. Stop! Dorothy's voice was firm. You did fuck up, royally. But sitting here drowning in guilt doesn't fix anything. The question is, what are you going to do about it? What can I do? Mom won't even see me. She's disappeared. For all I know, she actually did die and nobody told me because I'm such a shitty daughter. Your mama's not dead. She's at Isaiah's farm, healing. Physical therapy 3 times a week. Eating Dorothy's cooking, sitting on the porch watching the sunset. Dorothy pulled an envelope from her purse. She wanted me to give you this, and she wanted me to tell you something. Jessica took the envelope with shaking hands. Your mama knows you're pregnant. Dr. Patel's office called her. You still had her listed as your emergency contact. Oh, God. Jessica buried her face in her hands. Your mama said to tell you you've got one choice to make, Jessica Lynn. 1. You can stand with Preston, support him through the trial, play the loyal wife. Maybe he gets a lighter sentence because he's got a family. Or you can stand with the truth. Testify about what he did. what he planned, how he used you and your mama both. But you only get one choice, and you can't take it back. Jessica looked up, tears streaming down her face. What would you do? Doesn't matter what I'd do. This is your choice, your life, your baby. Dorothy's eyes were hard but not unkind. But I'll tell you this. Your child is going to grow up asking questions about their daddy. You want to tell them you stood by a con man, or that you stood up for what was right? Jessica opened the envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter on her mother's stationery. The good kind, cream-colored with embossed edges. Her mother's handwriting, still strong despite everything. Jessica, I'm not writing this to make you feel guilty. You're doing a fine job of that yourself, I imagine. I'm writing because I need you to understand something. I don't hate you. I'm hurt, yes. Disappointed, absolutely. But hate? Baby girl, I couldn't hate you if I tried. You're my daughter. That bond doesn't break just because you broke my heart. But here's the truth, and I need you to hear it. Love without boundaries is just enabling, and I enabled you for too long. I let you take and take and take because I was afraid that if I said no, you'd stop loving me. Turns out you stopped seeing me as a person long before I stopped saying yes. You're pregnant. I know. And honey, I'm not gonna lie. Part of me is angry that you didn't tell me yourself. But another part of me understands why. You're scared. You're alone. You don't know what comes next. So here's what I'm offering. One chance. Come to the farm. Talk to me. Not at me, not around me, but to me. Look me in the eyes and tell me who you want to be. Not who Preston made you. Not who your friends expect. Who Jessica Sullivan wants to be when she looks at herself in the mirror. If you want to rebuild our relationship, I'm willing. But it starts with honesty. Real, bone-deep, uncomfortable honesty. The address is on the back of this letter. Come when you're ready. But Jessica, don't make me wait too long. We've both wasted enough time already. Mom, Jessica read it 3 times, her tears blurring the ink. She'll really see me? She whispered. She will. But Jessica, don't go there with excuses. Don't go there expecting her to make you feel better about your choices. Go there ready to listen. Really listen. Jessica nodded, folding the letter carefully. Aunt Dorothy? Am I a bad person? Dorothy considered this, then reached across the table and took Jessica's hand. No, baby, you're not bad. You're just lost. And the good news about being lost is you can always find your way home, long as you're willing to walk the hard road to get there. The farm was 2 hours outside the city, down winding roads that turned from asphalt to gravel to dirt. Jessica's BMW looked ridiculous parked next to Isaiah's pickup truck, like a show poodle at a working dog convention. She sat in the car for 10 minutes, working up the courage to knock on the door. Finally, she got out. The porch wrapped around the old farmhouse, paint peeling but sturdy. Rocking chairs swayed slightly in the breeze. And there, in one of them, sat her mother. Hattie Mae Sullivan looked smaller than Jessica remembered. Thinner. The stroke had left a slight droop on the left side of her face, barely noticeable unless you knew to look. But her eyes were as sharp and clear as ever. Mama, Jessica whispered. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then Jessica's knees gave out, and she sank onto the porch steps, head in her hands, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I was horrible. I was selfish. I was cruel. And you almost died and I wasn't there. I was drinking champagne and making jokes, and I am so sorry. Stop! Hattie's voice cut through the hysteria like a knife. Jessica looked up, tears streaming. Sorry for what exactly? Hattie's voice was calm, measured. Sorry you got caught? Sorry things fell apart? Or sorry you treated your mama like an ATM instead of a human being? All of it. Everything. Mama, Which part hurts worse, Jessica? That you betrayed me or that Preston betrayed you? The question hit like a slap. Jessica opened her mouth, closed it, forced herself to really think about it. Both, she finally said. But what I did to you hurts worse. Because Preston, he's a liar and a con man, and I should have seen it. But you never lied to me. You never conned me. You just loved me. And I threw that away for a man and a lifestyle that weren't even real. Hattie was quiet for a long time. You're pregnant, she finally said. Jessica nodded, fresh tears coming. 6 weeks. I just found out. And I know I know you probably don't want anything to do with Preston's baby, and I understand. That baby, Hattie interrupted, is not Preston's baby. That baby is yours, and mine, and part of this family, no matter who the daddy is. Jessica's breath caught. Mama, I don't deserve. Jessica Lynn, shut up and listen. Hattie leaned forward in her chair. I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Your daddy, Bobby, he wasn't your biological father. The world tilted. Jessica stared at her mother, certain she'd misheard. What? Bobby and I got married when I was 5 months pregnant with you. Your biological father was a man named Richard Lancaster. He was a smooth talker, made me all kinds of promises, then disappeared the second he found out I was pregnant. Jessica couldn't breathe. You're lying. I wish I was. Hattie's voice was steady, but her eyes were wet. I was 25, working as a waitress, barely making rent. I was planning to terminate the pregnancy. I'd made the appointment and everything. But you didn't. No, because Bobby, sweet, kind Bobby, who was just a line cook making $8 an hour, he took my hands and said, Hattie, keep the baby. I'll be the daddy. I'll love that child like my own blood. Jessica's hands flew to her mouth. He married me knowing I was carrying another man's child. He put his name on your birth certificate. He walked the floor with you when you had colic. He taught you to ride a bike, helped with your homework, walked you down the aisle at your wedding. Hattie's voice broke. He loved you fiercer than most men love their own children. You were his daughter in every way that mattered. Why didn't you tell me? We did. When you were 12? You don't remember? Jessica searched her memory, and suddenly it was there. Hazy, half forgotten. Sitting in the living room, Bobby's arm around her shoulders, her mother crying. Being told that blood didn't make family, love did. And Jessica, 12-year-old Jessica who worshipped her daddy, had said, You're my dad. I don't care about blood. You're my dad. Oh, God, Jessica whispered. I remember saying that. And then I just forgot? How did I forget? Because it didn't matter. Bobby was your daddy. End of story. But I'm telling you again now because I need you to understand something. Hattie stood, moved slowly down the porch steps, and sat beside Jessica. Bobby chose to be your father, chose to love you, chose to build a life with a woman who came with complications and baggage and another man's child. He chose it, Jessica, because family isn't about blood. It's about choice. Jessica was crying so hard she could barely speak. I miss him so much. Me too, baby. Every single day. Hattie wrapped an arm around her daughter's shoulders. But he taught us both something important. You can choose who you want to be. You can choose to rise above your circumstances. And you can choose to love fiercely, even when people don't deserve it. What if I can't be that strong? Then you keep trying until you are. That's what being a Sullivan means. They sat there as the sun dipped toward the horizon, mother and daughter, silent but together for the first time in years. Finally, Jessica said, Preston's going to trial. The FBI says if I testify about what he told me, about his plans, about the forged documents, they'll give him a harsher sentence. And I don't know if I can do that. He's still the father of my baby. No, honey, he's the man who got you pregnant. There's a difference. Hattie pulled back, looked Jessica in the eyes. Your child deserves better than a father in prison, but your child also deserves a mother who stands up for what's right, even when it's hard. What would you do? I'd tell the truth, always, no matter the cost. Hattie squeezed her hand. But that's me. You gotta make your own choice. 6 months later, the federal courthouse in downtown Atlanta was all marble and intimidation, designed to make you feel small before you even walked through the metal detectors. Jessica stood outside courtroom 7B, one hand on her very pregnant belly, the other clutching a folder of documents. Dorothy appeared at her elbow. You ready, honey? No, but I'm doing it anyway. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Reporters in the back rows, sketch artists with their pads, and Preston at the defendant's table with his public defender, a tired-looking woman named Ms. Chen who'd probably drawn the short straw. Preston looked thinner, grayer. Prison orange didn't suit him. When his eyes found Jessica's, they hardened. The prosecution called Jessica to the stand at 2:47 p.m. She waddled up, 7 months pregnant made grace impossible, and placed her hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, And nothing but the truth? I do. The prosecutor, a sharp woman named Amanda Reeves, smiled encouragingly. Mrs. Thornton, can you please describe your relationship to the defendant? He's my soon-to-be ex-husband. Jessica's voice was steady. We were married for 5 years. And during that marriage, did Mr. Thornton ever discuss plans to acquire ownership of your mother's restaurant business? Jessica glanced at Preston. He was staring at her with pure venom. She looked away. Yes, multiple times, starting about a year after we got married. Can you describe these conversations? Jessica took a breath. Preston told me that we just needed to wait for my mother to die, that once she was gone, I'd inherit everything, and we could modernize the restaurants. He used to joke about it, say things like, every time she eats bacon, that's money in our pocket. A murmur went through the courtroom. Did you find these jokes concerning? I should have, but I didn't. I thought he was just being dark. I didn't realize he was serious until... Jessica's voice wavered. Until the night of his birthday party. My mother had a stroke that morning. She called me, told me she wasn't feeling well, and I told her to stop being dramatic and take aspirin. What happened next? She almost died, and while she was in the hospital, Preston and I threw a party. We drank a bottle of champagne that my mother had been saving for 20 years. It was my father's, something special. And Preston joked about hoping she'd go quickly so we could take over. The courtroom was dead silent. Did Mr. Thornton take any concrete actions to defraud your mother? Yes. He forged her signature on loan documents to get $3.2 million from First National Bank. He told me he needed the money to invest in the business, but I later found out he was hiding it in an offshore account. Preston's lawyer shot to her feet. Objection. Speculation about the defendant's intentions. Sustained. Mrs. Thornton, please stick to what you directly observed or were told. Amanda nodded. What exactly did Mr. Thornton tell you about the loan? He said, and I quote, your mom's sitting on a gold mine and treating it like a charity kitchen. If she won't give us what we deserve, we'll just take it. She'll never even notice until it's too late. And by then, nature will have taken its course. Jessica's voice cracked. I asked what he meant by that, and he said, baby, she's 65 and works herself into the ground. How much longer can she really last? Preston slammed his hand on the table. That's a lie. She's making this up because she's mad I got someone else pregnant. The judge's gavel came down like thunder. Mr. Thornton, one more outburst and you'll be held in contempt. Sit down. Amanda turned back to Jessica. Did there come a time when you discovered Mr. Thornton was having an affair? Yes. A woman named Samantha White contacted me. She was 4 months pregnant with his child. She told me Preston had promised to leave me as soon as my mother died and we got the inheritance. How did that make you feel? Jessica looked directly at Preston. It made me realize I'd married a con artist. And worse, I'd let him turn me into someone I didn't recognize. Someone who valued money over family. Someone who'd laugh about her own mother dying. Tears streamed down her face, but her voice stayed strong. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because my baby is going to grow up asking about their father. And I need to be able to look them in the eye and say, your mama did the right thing, even when it was hard. The prosecution rested shortly after. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. 1 year later, the grand opening of Hattie's Southern Table No. 8 fell on a perfect Saturday in October. Crisp air, blue skies, leaves just starting to turn. The new location was in the West End, a neighborhood that was gentrifying rapidly but still held onto its soul. Hattie stood outside with the ceremonial scissors, surrounded by family. To her left, Dorothy and Isaiah, the unlikely power couple who'd somehow started dating during the whole Preston debacle. To her right, Jessica, holding 4-month-old Roberta May in her arms. The baby, Bobby for short, had her grandmother's eyes and her grandfather's smile. Speech time, Danny Brooks called out. He was the COO now, managing 7 restaurants while somehow still finding time to perfect his grandmother's recipe for peach cobbler. Hattie cleared her throat, microphone in hand. Y'all, I'm not much for speeches. I'm better with food than words. But I guess I gotta say something. So here goes. Laughter from the crowd. This restaurant, No. 8, is special. It's not just another location. It's a new beginning. For me, for my family, for this community. She looked at Jessica, who was blinking back tears. A year ago, I was in a hospital bed, thinking my life was over. thinking I'd failed as a mother, as a businesswoman, as a person. I'd spent 40 years building an empire, but I'd forgotten why I started. Forgotten that food isn't just about feeding bellies, it's about feeding souls. Hattie paused, composing herself. My husband Bobby, some of you knew him, some didn't. He used to say, people won't remember what you said or what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And that's what this place is about. Making people feel loved, feel seen, feel like they matter. She turned to Jessica. This restaurant, I'm putting it in my daughter's name. Not because she's perfect. Lord knows she's not. But because she had the courage to fall down and get back up. To admit when she was wrong. To choose truth over comfort. Jessica was openly crying now, Bobby making little cooing sounds in her arms. And because I want my granddaughter to grow up knowing that second chances are real, that mistakes don't define you, how you handle them does. That family is about choice and forgiveness and showing up, even when it's hard. Hattie cut the ribbon to thunderous applause. The restaurant had finally emptied, the last customer satisfied and gone. Jessica sat in one of the booths, nursing Bobby while Hattie cleaned up the kitchen, because some habits die hard. Mom, you don't have to do that. We have staff. I know, but there's something peaceful about it. Brings me back to this beginning, you know? Jessica watched her mother move through the kitchen with practiced efficiency, even at 66 with a slight limp from the stroke. Hey, Mom? Yeah, baby? What did the judge give Preston? I never asked. Hattie paused mid-wipe. 12 years federal, eligible for parole in 8 if he behaves, plus restitution of $4.2 million to the trust. Does he ever ask about Bobby? His lawyer reached out once, wanted visitation rights. Hattie's voice was carefully neutral. I told Isaiah to tell him that when he's paid back every penny he stole and served his full sentence, we can talk about supervised visitation. Until then, no. Good. Jessica adjusted Bobby against her shoulder. I don't want her knowing him as anything but a cautionary tale. Hattie came over, sat across from her daughter. Jessica, I gotta ask you something, and I want the honest truth. Okay. Do you regret it? Testifying? Being the reason he's in prison? Jessica thought about it. Really thought about it. No, she finally said. I regret marrying him. I regret hurting you. I regret wasting 5 years of my life on someone who never loved me. But testifying? That's the one thing I don't regret. That's the thing that made me feel like myself again. Hattie reached across the table, took her daughter's hand. Your daddy would be proud of you. Both of them. Jessica's eyes widened. Both? Bobby, for obvious reasons, but I like to think Richard, your biological father, wherever he is, maybe he's proud too. Proud that despite his cowardice, you turned out strong. I'm not strong, Mom. I'm a mess. I'm a single mother working 60 hours a week trying to prove I can run a restaurant while my baby thinks Danny is her primary caregiver. That's called being a working mother, honey. It's messy. It's hard. And you're doing it anyway. That's strength. Bobby chose that moment to spit up all over Jessica's shoulder. They both laughed. Yeah, Jessica said, wiping baby vomit off her shirt. I'm crushing it. 3 years later, Sunday morning, early. Hattie's Southern Table number 8 wasn't open yet, but the kitchen was alive with activity. 3 generations of Sullivan women worked side by side. Hattie, now 69, moved slower but no less purposefully, teaching her granddaughter the family recipe. Jessica, 32, managed the business side, books spread across the counter, laptop open, phone ringing off the hook from suppliers. And Roberta May, Bobby, 3 years old with pigtails and her grandfather's eyes, stood on a step stool wearing a tiny apron, helping Grandma Hattie mix cake batter. Gentle, baby girl, Hattie instructed. We're not beating eggs, we're folding love into the batter. Like tucking me into bed? Bobby asked. Exactly like that. Jessica looked up from her laptop, watched her mother and daughter, and felt something settle in her chest. Peace, maybe. Or just rightness. Hey, Mom? Yeah? Thank you. For giving me another chance. For not giving up on me when I'd given up on myself. Hattie looked at her daughter, really looked at her. Saw the woman she'd become, not the girl she'd been. Jessica, I'm your mama. Giving up was never an option. Getting some boundaries, sure. But giving up? Never. Bobby tugged on Hattie's sleeve. Grandma, what's Grandpa Bobby like? Hattie smiled, that bittersweet smile reserved for old memories and lost loves. Your Grandpa Bobby was the best man I ever knew. Strong and kind and funny. He loved your mama something fierce. And you know what he always said? What? He said, people will forget what you said and what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. Did he make you feel good? He made me feel loved, baby girl. Every single day. Bobby considered this seriously. I'm going to make people feel loved too. That's my girl. 1985 Bobby and Hattie in their tiny apartment kitchen, flour everywhere, the radio playing Al Green. Hattie, Bobby said, pulling her close despite the mess. I'm going to make you a promise. Oh yeah? What's that? We're going to build something beautiful, not just a business, a legacy, something that outlives us both, something that shows people what love looks like when you put it on a plate. Hattie laughed. Baby, we got $50 to our name and a dream. You really think we can change the world? Bobby kissed her forehead, leaving a flour mark. The world? Maybe not. But our little corner of it? Absolutely. And then he spun her around the cramped kitchen while Al Green sang about staying together, and Hattie Mae Sullivan, 25 years old, 5 months pregnant with another man's child, scared out of her mind but hopeful anyway. She let herself believe. Let herself hope. Let herself love. Present day. The sun streamed through the kitchen windows, catching dust motes and steam from the ovens, making everything golden. Hattie looked at her daughter and granddaughter, at the empire she'd built and nearly lost, at the second chances and hard-won forgiveness, and felt Bobby's presence like a warm hand on her shoulder. We did it, baby, she thought. We changed our corner of the world. And somewhere, she was certain, Bobby was smiling. Outside, a line was already forming for the Sunday brunch special. Families and couples and friends, all waiting for a taste of something more than food. They were waiting for love, served on chipped china plates, in a restaurant that remembered where it came from. Waiting for soul food, waiting for home.